My child, before I tell you my story, let me warn you. It is not an easy one. Every word I speak carries the weight of wounds, but also the strength of survival. Listen carefully, because in my pain, there are lessons I want you to carry when I am gone. I was very young when my mother left this world. I didn't even understand death at that age. All I knew was that one day, her warm hands stopped touching my hair. Her gentle voice stopped singing me to sleep. And her eyes, those loving eyes, never opened again. I lost my whole world in a single moment. After she was gone, my father, he drowned himself in drink. The man who was supposed to protect me, hold me, guide me, he became a stranger. His love was buried inside bottles. And when he looked at me, it wasn't with affection, but with tired, angry eyes. He remarried, and I thought maybe this woman would become a mother to me. But no, she saw me as nothing but a shadow of someone she despised. Her tongue was sharp, her hands were cruel. Every day she reminded me that I was unwanted. She fed her own daughter with care while I was left hungry. She clothed her child in softness while I wore rags. Her words cut deeper than knives, and her hatred burned me more than fire. One day she did what even the harshest enemies should never do to a child. She pushed me out of the house. My father, he didn't stop her. He looked away. I was left standing in the street with no shoes, no food, no family, no shelter. I slept on pavements under broken roofs, sometimes under the open sky. The stars above became my only companions. Hunger gnawed at my stomach until it felt like I was being eaten alive from the inside. I begged for crumbs, for a sip of water, for a kind word, but the world rarely has mercy for children like me. I was so small, so weak, but life doesn't wait for you to grow strong. It forces you to fight or die. And in my fight for survival, I was dragged into the darkest corners of this world, a place where innocence is stolen, where dignity is sold, where broken souls are used like objects. Yes, my child, I became what I never wished to be, a sex worker. I was too young, too lost, too hungry to fight against it. For a while, that life held me in its grip. Each day felt like dying, and each night was heavier than the last. I hated myself, but I had no choice. But my conscience, my heart, they refused to accept it. I told myself, this is not who you are. This is not where your life will end. One night, I ran. I didn't know where my feet would take me, but I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs could no longer carry me. I ran away from shame, from fear, from the life that was killing me. And by God's mercy, I found a small store. They needed workers to pack goods. The pay was little, the work was hard, but it was honest. For the first time, I could look at myself without shame. For the first time, I felt a seed of dignity sprout inside me. From that moment, I promised myself, I will never go back to the darkness. No matter how hard life gets, I will fight. I will climb. I will rise. This was the first step of my true journey. From that moment, I promised myself, I will never go back to the darkness. No matter how hard life gets, I will fight. I will climb. I will rise. This was the first step of my true journey. My child, when I started working in that small store, I was nothing but a broken girl with trembling hands and an empty stomach. The owner looked at me with doubt at first, perhaps thinking I was too weak for such hard labor. But I told him, please, just give me one chance. I will not disappoint you. And so, my days began, packing boxes from morning till night. My fingers bled, my back ached, my body screamed for rest. But I didn't care. Every drop of sweat felt like a prayer. Every coin I earned felt like dignity returning to me. I lived on the simplest food. Many nights I ate nothing but dry bread with water. I saved every little coin, tucking them away like treasures. While others spent their wages, I kept mine hidden in an old cloth under my pillow. Each coin was hope. Each coin was a step away from the girl who once begged on the streets. Slowly, the people at the store began to trust me. They saw I never stole, never complained, never missed a day of work. I became like a machine working tirelessly, and inside something began to grow. Confidence. For the first time, I believed maybe, just maybe, I could build a life with my own two hands. One evening, as I counted my little savings, I whispered to myself, this money is small, but one day it will grow. One day, I will not just work for others, but create something of my own. After many months, I gathered enough to rent a small corner in the marketplace. It was nothing but a wooden table at first, but to me it was a palace. I started selling small items, packets, stitched cloths, and things people used every day. My hands knew the value of hard work, and my heart knew the value of honesty. Customers slowly came, and with each sale, my dream became clearer. Child, you must understand, success does not come overnight. For many nights I cried because sales were low, because people doubted me, because failure stood at my door. But I refused to give up. I told myself, you have already survived the worst. You have already walked through fire. This is nothing compared to what you have endured. So I kept pushing. I woke before sunrise. I stayed long after the market closed. I learned how to speak to customers, how to smile even when I was tired, how to stretch one coin into two. Slowly, very slowly, the business grew. And with it, I grew too. I was no longer that broken child, no longer the girl abandoned on the streets. I was a woman shaping her destiny with her own hands. Every night when I lay my head down, I whispered to my mother's memory, "Ma, I will make you proud. Even though you left me too soon, your daughter will rise. She will not stay crushed under this world's cruelty." That promise kept me alive, kept me strong. It became the fire that lit my path forward. And step by step, I walked toward a future I had never dared to dream. My child, those first few months in the marketplace taught me lessons no book could ever teach. I learned that people respect honesty more than anything. If you give them truth, they will give you trust. And with trust, business grows. But it wasn't easy. Sometimes I sat the whole day without earning more than a few coins. Sometimes the weather was cruel. Rains soaking my little stall. Winds blowing my goods onto the dirt. Sometimes, bigger shopkeepers mocked me, saying, "What can a poor girl like you achieve? Go back to where you came from." Their words stung, but they also pushed me. I told myself, one day I will have a store bigger than theirs. One day they will see me not as a beggar but as an equal. And so I worked harder. Every little profit I earned, I didn't waste. I reinvested. If I sold 10 cloths today, I bought 20 for tomorrow. If I earned 1 rupee, I saved half and used half to buy more goods. Slowly, the small table turned into a proper stall, and the stall into a small shop with wooden walls. Ah, child, I cannot explain to you the feeling of standing inside that shop for the first time. My own roof, my own shelves, my own lock and key. It wasn't grand, but to me, it was a kingdom. Still, life tested me. Thieves once broke in and stole half of what I had. I cried the whole night, thinking all my hard work was gone. But the very next morning, I stood in that empty shop and told myself, "You will not surrender. Start again." And I did. Another time, my health gave way. All those sleepless nights, all that labor, my body fell sick. For days, I could not open the shop. The money I had saved began to vanish on medicines. It felt like life was pulling me down again. But then I remembered those nights I slept on the streets. Those days I had no food, no shelter. Compared to that, this was nothing. I forced myself to rise, to work even when I was weak. Because I had no one else to depend on. People in the market began to notice me. They saw my determination, my discipline, my honesty. Slowly, customers came to me first before others. They said, "Her goods may be simple, but she sells with a clean heart." That, my child, is something money cannot buy. After some years, I saved enough to open a second shop. This time I hired 1 helper. I cannot tell you the pride I felt when I paid someone else wages from my own earnings. It was like life had turned a full circle. From being a helpless child begging for bread, I had become someone who could give others work. I knew then, this was just the beginning. My path was no longer about survival. It was about building something greater, something lasting. And so, with courage as my partner and patience as my weapon, I continued to climb the mountain of life. My child, after opening the second shop, I felt like the world had finally started to listen to me. It was no longer just survival. It was progress. I was building step by step, brick by brick, with hands that once trembled with hunger. Each morning, I opened my shops before the sun rose, and each night I closed them long after others had gone home. I worked harder than anyone else, because I knew what it meant to have nothing. My workers noticed. They saw that I did not sit idle, that I stood shoulder to shoulder with them. Slowly, they began to trust me. Not as a boss, but as someone who understood their struggles. The money started to grow. Not fast, not easy, but steady. And with that growth came new dreams. I began to imagine more than just shops. I thought of a business, a company, something bigger than myself. Something that would live on even when I am gone. But child, success always comes with new trials. Bigger shops meant bigger responsibilities. Bigger profits meant bigger risks. And bigger dreams meant bigger enemies. Some people envied me. Some tried to pull me down, saying, "She has no education, how can she run a business?" Others spread rumors to ruin my name. I cried some nights, yes. But each morning I rose stronger, because when you have lived through the worst, people's words cannot break you anymore. I started to travel to nearby towns, buying better goods, meeting new traders, learning how to negotiate. I was uneducated, but life had been my teacher. Every deal, every mistake, every coin taught me something new. And slowly I became wiser. One day I rented a bigger place, not just a shop, but a proper storehouse. That was the turning point. My goods increased, my workers increased, and my customers doubled. For the first time, I felt the weight of responsibility, not just for myself, but for those who depended on me. Their families ate because of my decisions. Their children went to school because of my company. Ah, child, that feeling. It was heavy, but it was also beautiful. For the first time in my life, I was not just surviving, I was giving life to others. Yet even in that success, the shadows of my past followed me. Sometimes as I sat in my growing office, my mind drifted back to those nights on the street, when I shivered alone under the open sky. Sometimes the voice of my cruel stepmother echoed in my ears, telling me I was worthless. And sometimes the shame of those dark days when I sold my dignity pressed on my heart. But then I looked around me, at the workers, at the shelves filled with goods, at the life I had built, and I told myself, "No, you are not worthless. You are proof that even broken souls can rise." It was in that moment, my child, that I truly believed I was walking toward something greater than just a business. I was walking toward destiny. My child, by the time I reached the 5th stage of my journey, life began to look different. The little shops I had started with trembling hands were no longer just shops. They had grown, multiplied, and turned into something bigger, a company. But let me tell you, success is never a straight road. It is a path full of stones, full of storms. Many people think that once you earn money, all pain ends. That is not true. Money can feed your stomach, but it cannot heal the scars on your soul. As my business grew, I had to make harder decisions. Managing workers, keeping accounts, dealing with dishonest people. Each day brought a new challenge. Some tried to cheat me, some spread lies about me, some even threatened me. But I had learned one truth. If you have walked through fire once, no flame can scare you again. I carried myself with strength, and little by little, people respected me. Customers no longer saw me as the poor girl from the street. They called me Madam. My workers began to depend on me, and when I paid them, I remembered the days when I worked in that small store, when every coin felt like survival. I promised myself I would never let my workers suffer the way I once did. Child, I cannot explain to you the joy of watching something grow from nothing. To stand in front of buildings with my company's name on them, to see trucks carrying goods I produced, it felt like a dream born from nights of hunger and years of tears. But even then, in my quiet moments, the past returned. Sometimes I would wake in the night with the echo of my stepmother's harsh voice, or the memory of those streets where I once slept. Sometimes I would feel the weight of shame from those dark days when I was forced into a life I never wanted. These memories never leave completely. They sit inside you like shadows, reminding you of where you came from. And yet, those shadows also became my strength. They whispered to me, "You survived this. You earned this. Never forget, never bow down." One day as I stood in my office, looking at the busy workers and the sound of machines running, I realized something. I had built not just a business, but a new life, a new identity. I was no longer the abandoned child, no longer the girl who begged, no longer the one society spat on. I was a woman who had fought every battle and still stood tall. And do you know what made me smile the most? Sometimes in my own company, poor girls came asking for work. Girls with the same fear in their eyes that I once had. I never turned them away. I always gave them a chance, because I knew saving one child from the streets is greater than earning 1,000 coins. My journey had turned, my child. From being a victim of life, I had become the writer of my own destiny. My child, no matter how far we travel, the past has a way of finding us again. I had built my business, I had earned respect, but deep inside, the wound of my father's abandonment never healed. He had left me when I needed him the most. He had turned his back when my stepmother threw me out, and he never once came searching for me. Then, one day, the news reached me. My father was dead. He had drunk himself into the grave, the same way he had drunk away his duties as a father. For a long time, I did not know what to feel. Anger, sadness, relief? A storm of emotions crashed inside me. Part of me wanted to curse him for leaving me to suffer. Another part of me pitied him for being too weak to fight his demons. I never saw him before his burial. I never heard an apology from his lips. The man who should have held my hand in childhood was gone forever, leaving only scars and silence behind. But fate, child, fate writes stories stranger than our imagination. Some months after his death, I noticed new faces coming to my company looking for work. Poor, desperate men and women, willing to do anything just to earn bread for their children. And among them were my father's children, the sons and daughters of the same woman who had once made my life a living hell. My stepmother's children, my half-brothers and sisters. Can you imagine the moment, child? Standing in my own office, watching them beg for jobs in the company I built with blood and tears, while memories of their mother's cruelty burned in my heart. They looked at me with shame in their eyes, not even recognizing me at first. One of them said, "Madam, please, we are poor. Give us work. We will serve you honestly." For a moment I could not speak. My chest felt heavy. I remembered the nights I slept on streets, the days I starved, the insults I bore, all because of their mother, and because of a father who never defended me. And now those same children were standing before me, asking for bread from my hand. I had a choice. I could have turned them away. I could have said, "Suffer the way I suffered." I could have taken revenge. But child, I did not. Because the truth is, they were not the ones who threw me out. They were not the ones who broke me. They were victims of the same man, our father. And I knew the taste of hunger too well to let anyone else's child suffer it. So I gave them work. Yes, in my company. I put them among the other laborers, not above, not below, just as workers. And as they worked under my roof, I often stood silently, watching them. Life has a strange way of circling back. The same blood that once turned me into an outcast now worked under my command. The same family that once rejected me now depended on me for their survival. It was not revenge that I felt, but something deeper. A quiet justice written by the hands of fate. My child, when I saw my half-brothers and sisters working in my company, my heart was torn in many directions. At first, every time I looked at them, I saw my stepmother's cruel face. Her voice echoed in my ears, "You are nothing. You don't belong here." For days, I avoided even speaking to them. But as time passed, I noticed something. They were not cruel. They were not arrogant. They were just tired, worn down by poverty, beaten by life, just as I once was. They carried shame in their eyes, as if they knew their mother had sinned against me. They worked hard, and not once did they demand more than what was fair. One evening, I sat in my office long after everyone had gone home. I looked at the empty chairs and whispered to myself, "What is true strength? Is it revenge, or is it the ability to forgive?" That night, I remembered my own journey, the streets, the hunger, the nights when I sold my dignity just to stay alive. If God had shown me mercy, if fate had given me a second chance, then who was I to deny mercy to others? So the next morning, I called them into my office. Their faces turned pale, as if they feared I was about to send them away. But instead, I said, "Work honestly, and you will never go hungry under my roof." Child, do you know what forgiveness feels like? It feels like setting down a heavy stone you've carried for years. My heart felt lighter. The bitterness I had held inside began to melt. For the first time in my life, I looked at those siblings not as enemies, but as fellow sufferers of life's cruelty. And you know what happened after that? My company grew even stronger. The workers respected me more, because they saw that I was not only a leader, but a human being with compassion. They said, "Madam is not just our boss. She is like a mother to all of us." That, my child, is when I realized something powerful. Success is not measured only in money, in shops, in buildings. True success is when your wounds no longer control you. True success is when you can look your past in the eye and say, "You did not break me. You made me stronger." Forgiveness did not erase my pain. The scars are still there. But forgiveness gave me peace. It allowed me to move forward without the chains of hatred. And do you know what else I learned? Mercy is a kind of wealth too. When you give kindness to others, it multiplies, it spreads. It returns to you in ways money never can. So I chose to live not with anger, but with mercy. And that choice, my child, became my greatest strength. My child, when I look back now, my life feels like a long road filled with fire, storms, and thorns. Yet somehow I walked it. And now, standing at this stage of my life, I want to tell you the lessons I learned, so you don't have to suffer the way I did. The first lesson is this: never give up hope, even in the darkest nights. When I was starving, alone, and ashamed, there was always a small flame inside me whispering, "Keep going." Hope is what carried me from the streets to the shop, from the shop to the company. Without hope, I would have died long ago. Hold on to it no matter what. The second lesson: hard work never betrays you. It may not give results immediately, it may take years, but it will always reward you in the end. My hands bled from packing boxes, my back ached from lifting goods, my eyes burned from sleepless nights. But all that labor built the foundation of my success. Lazy people may shine for a moment, but hardworking people shine for a lifetime. The third lesson: never forget where you came from. I have money now, I have respect. I have workers under me, but I still remember the girl who begged for scraps, who slept on pavements, who cried in the dark. Remembering my past keeps me humble. It reminds me never to look down on anyone, no matter how poor or broken they are. The fourth lesson: forgiveness is freedom. If I had carried anger in my heart, I would have remained a prisoner forever. Forgiving my father, forgiving my stepmother's children, it healed me. My child, hate burns only the one who holds it. Let it go and you will breathe again. The fifth lesson: dignity is greater than gold. I know what it feels like to lose dignity, to live in shame. And I also know the pride of earning honestly, even if the pay is small. Money comes and goes, but dignity, once you lose it, it is hard to gain back. Guard it with all your strength. And finally, the most important lesson: pain can be your teacher. Do not curse your hardships too much, because sometimes they shape you into who you are meant to be. If I had lived a comfortable childhood, maybe I would never have become strong. Maybe I would never have built this company. Maybe I would never have learned compassion. My pain carved me into who I am today. So, child, do not fear suffering. Do not run away from challenges. Face them. Learn from them. Turn them into your power. Because life will never be easy, but it can be meaningful. And remember, you come from me. My blood runs in your veins. You carry the strength of all my struggles. So never doubt yourself. No matter how big the storm, you are strong enough to walk through it. My child, now that I'm old, I live a life very different from the one I once knew. I no longer wake up at dawn to open shops, nor do I run in the marketplace carrying heavy bags. I sit in this chair, in this little home filled with memories, and I watch others continue the work I started. The company I built is still alive. The workers I once guided now guide others. And you, my sweet one, you sit before me, listening to the story of a woman who once had nothing. That is my greatest wealth, not the buildings, not the money, but the lessons I can pass on to you. Sometimes in the quiet of night, I close my eyes and think of all the roads I walked. I remember the cold streets where I once slept, and I thank God for the warm bed I now rest in. I remember the hunger that twisted my stomach, and I thank God for the food that now fills my table. I remember the shame that broke me, and I thank God for the dignity I finally earned back. Child, peace is not bought by riches. Peace comes when you know you have lived with courage, when you know you have given more to the world than you took. Peace comes when you can look back and say, yes, I suffered, but I did not waste my suffering. I turned it into strength. Many people still ask me, Dadi, how did you do it? How did you go from the streets to success? And I smile because the answer is simple. I refused to give up. That is all. I kept walking even when my feet bled. I kept believing even when no one else believed in me. And now, when I see young girls in my company carrying the same fear I once carried, I tell them, do not let the world decide your worth. You are stronger than you know. Some of them cry, some of them smile, but all of them understand, because pain speaks, a language that every broken heart can hear. As for my father and stepmother, they are gone from this world. Their voices no longer haunt me. I have forgiven them, and in doing so, I freed myself. I pray for their souls, because carrying hate into my last days would only poison me. Now my only wish is that when I am gone, people will remember not just the company I built, but the woman who refused to die when life tried to kill her spirit. I want you and all who come after you to know that your bloodline carries resilience, that no matter what the world takes from you, you can rebuild. My child, that is my legacy. Not money, not property, but strength, courage, and faith. If you carry those, you will never be truly poor. My child, you have now heard my whole story, from the day I lost my mother to the nights I slept on the streets, to the shame I carried, to the strength I built, and to the success that finally came. My journey has been long, painful, and full of battles, but it has also been filled with miracles, with lessons, and with victories I never thought I could win. If there is one thing I want you to carry from my story, it is this: life will break you, but you must refuse to stay broken. Pain will come, but pain is not the end. Hunger, shame, betrayal, they may bend you, but if you keep your faith, if you keep walking, one day you will rise taller than all of it. I am not telling you this to make you pity me. No, child. I tell you because I want you to know your own strength. If I, a girl thrown out by her own family, abandoned, humiliated, and left to die, could rise again, then you can too. You have no excuse to give up. No matter what storm comes, you must keep moving. Remember, money can be stolen, health can fade, people can betray you, but your courage, your dignity, your faith, no one can ever take those from you. Protect them with all your heart, and forgive, child. Forgive even those who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Do not let hatred poison your soul. Life is too short to carry bitterness. Let it go, and you will feel free. Now, as I sit here, old and tired, I look at you and see hope. You are my tomorrow, the continuation of everything I fought for. My story is ending, but yours is just beginning, and I pray that you will never forget where you come from. You carry my blood, my pain, my strength, and my faith. Carry them with pride, and one day, tell your children what I told you, that no matter how dark the night, the sun will rise again. My time is nearing its close, child. Soon I will return to the soil, and my soul will rest. But if my words live on in your heart, then I will never truly die. So now I give you my final blessing. Live bravely, love deeply, and forgive freely. Be the light in a world that often chooses darkness. And when life tries to break you, remember your dadi's story and rise. This was my journey, my truth, my testimony of survival. Thank you, my dear, for listening to my heart. And to all those watching, if my story touched your soul, then let it remind you of your own hidden strength. You are not weak. You are not alone. You are capable of building a new life, no matter how broken you feel today. This is our channel, where we keep alive the stories of courage, sacrifice, and hope. If my story gave you strength, then stay with us, for more stories are yet to be told. Until we meet again, remember, pain does not define you. What you do with your pain, that is what makes you who you are.